Hi, my name is Judy Elmore, and I'm a freelance editor with Black Wolf Editorial Services. Recently, I released a series of videos entitled Tips and Tricks for Scrivener. However, while I was running some workshops over the course of Labor Day weekend within New Zealand, I discovered there was one video that was missing from that series, one that was incredibly vital. What do you do if you are brand new to Scrivener and you just want to start writing your NaNoWriMo project? Well, that's what we're going to go over today. If you have just installed Scrivener, you're going to have a system that looks something like what we have right in front of us. You're going to have this Getting Starting folder with this interactive tutorial, a bit of a Scrivener manual, and of course a link to some YouTube videos. Well, we're just going to bypass all of that, and we are going to open up a new novel. So you're going to click on Fiction, and then you're going to click on Novel. Now, if you've happened to install the NaNoWriMo trial version of Scrivener, you'll have another option here. You'll have one that says Novel, and then it will say NaNoWriMo in brackets. But they are exactly the same thing, so we're just going to use this one here. Now, I'm going to save this to my desktop, and we're going to call this Demo, just so I can find it. It's always a good idea to save your manuscripts where you can find them. Personally, I like to save them into a Dropbox folder, not a Google Drive. For those of you who like using Google Drive, be warned, Literature and Latte have released that Scrivener and Google Drive are not friendly with one another. There has been reported cases where people have lost their entire manuscripts, so just be warned. So we're going to create that now. And this brings up this window here. Now I'm not going to go full screen because I have a 24-inch screen and it is a bit big. For those of you who are new to the series, this is a Windows-based system. Literature and Latte have released several different versions of Scrivener. You have Scrivener for Mac, Scrivener for Windows, iOS, and of course Linux. However, the Scrivener for Mac and Windows and Linux are pretty much the same, so don't worry if I'm using a Windows system, you will be able to figure it out. Just so you know, within the main series of this video series, episode 10 does point out some of the big differences between Windows and Mac. Right, carrying on. This is what you've got. You're going to have this novel format description, and it's going to tell you all about this particular template. And if I scroll down, there's just other little tips here and bits and pieces about what you could potentially do. We're not going to worry about that because this is all stuff that we're going to be looking at a later date. What we're going to do is we're going to go straight into dealing with our manuscript, and that's this folder here. What I'm looking at right now is the corkboard for my manuscript. To switch between a corkboard and an outline, and of course the manuscript itself, you're going to look at these three buttons across the top. The one in the middle is the corkboard. If you're on a Mac system, the corkboard is going to look a little bit different. It's going to be a white background, not this corky background. But that's okay. It's still the same features. And then if we're going to go look at the outline, we have this. And we're going to look at the full manuscript, and we've got this situation. Now these lines here are actually related to the fact that we have multiple different files within our manuscript at the moment. Now Scrivener likes to put chapters into what it calls folders. This is so it can do the auto-generating of chapter numbering. Okay, so I'm actually going to change this from chapter because I don't like calling my chapters chapter. I'm going to call this, we're going to say Bob Meets Bunny. Don't ask me why I just did that one, but that's exactly what I came up with. And we are going to tap Untitled case it. And I'm going to put some of the story in here. So I'm going to say this is a chapter where Bob will meet Bunny. Okay. So I now have a file with this sentence in here. And if I come into just this one, at the moment we are looking at multiple different files within the one. If I click this again, we only have just the one file. So that's actually this file right here, Bunny meets Bob. And if I come down to the scene, some people like to have their scenes in separate scenes. I'm not a big fan of it, but we can put that in here. So we can say this is a scene. Now if I come back to this file here, you can see how this has changed. And if I come up to my main manuscript, you can see that we've started and we're generating that file structure. Okay, how do we add a new chapter? Well, we're going to come up to this little button here with the plus. We're going to click on this down arrow and we're going to add a folder. And we're going to call this Bunny Runs Away. Again, I just came up with it. Don't ask me why, but that's what happened. So we're going to say, in this chapter, away from Bob. Okay, but we can add another chapter if we wish by coming down here. We have three buttons. We have one which is add a file or a scene or add another folder. Now the folder is our chapters, remember? So we can come there and we can call this one Bob Chases Bunny. Now I come back up to the manuscript again just so you can see what we've got. And we are now getting this structure. I come to my outline and we are now getting this coming through here. So these are our different chapters and we can see where the different scenes are coming through as well. Various different things. Some of the other features that you are going to want to use within Scrivener during NaNoWriMo is things like your character sketches. Some people like to have a cheat sheet as to what their characters might look like. So if I go and create a new character, and I'm going to come up to here to this little with a green button, and I'm going to click on this down arrow next to it. I'm going to go new from template, character sketch, and we're going to call this one Bob. So I'm going to change his character name, and I'm going to say that his role in here is to chase after Bunny. You can add other information, other bits and pieces through here as to what you want. Now this is a standard template that's part of Scrivener. One of the things that you might be interested in doing is actually adding a picture with Bob. What does Bob really look like? So the way we do that is we're going to come over to this little button over here, the one with the blue circle, and we're going to look at the eye. Now if I bring this up, we have here a synopsis dialog, and if you read here it says drag an image file. So what you can do is you can add an image that you find inspirational for this character. So if I open up a folder, and I'm going to open up this one here, and I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to put that into there. Okay. And look at that, we now have an image for what Bob might look like. That can be quite handy for us to actually see, so we can actually have some inspiration of what he does look like. I would also be inclined myself to actually add a copy of the file or the image actually into this as well. So if we go right hand click, add files. Alternatively, you can come up to here and go add files from this drop down menu. If we add from files, we're going to grab this image in particular, and it's going to add it specifically just into our frame. Okay. But I want this to be associated with Bob, so I want it to be directly under Bob so I can easily find it. And the way we do that is if you select that file, you're going to go Control right if you're on Windows. If you're on Mac, it's Command Control right. So I'll show you that. If I go Control left, that moves it out of the folder. And so under Mac, that was Control Command left. And under Windows, Control right, and it's in the folder. It's the same exact sort of concept. So now I can discreetly put that down, and I don't see the image, and it makes it easy. Now I'm going to quickly add another character because we can. So we're going to add from template, character sketch. We're going to call this one Bunny. And her role, or his role, or its role in the story is to be chased by Bob. Now I don't have a ready-made image for this, so I'm going to leave the imagination to you as to what type of story I'm just suddenly making up in my head, whether it's a romance with Bob actually chasing a girl named Bunny, or whether it's a children's story where you have a child named Bob chasing after a bunny. I'll leave that imagination up to you. Okay, so we have our character sketches. You can do the same sorts of things, exactly the same sorts of things, with your places. You can have descriptions of your places. So new from template, setting. And we're just going to say that is in the meadow. Again, you can have your role in the story, you can have seasons, you can have the other bits and pieces. Now at the moment, you can't add an image, but the way you're going to do that, if you do want to add an image to this, so you see this little synopsis button over here? See how it looks like an index card? Well, you're going to come up to what this button is right here. You're going to click on that, and you're going to change it to a picture. So if you want to add a picture to this, you can do that really easily. Now, if you were paying attention to the screen, you will have noticed that when we were looking at our characters, they came up with this label down here that said character note. Well, you can have other notes as well. We're missing one, so we're going to quickly add one. And we're going to edit, and we're going to add a character label, and we're going to call it a setting. Now, I don't know about you, but that blue and that blue looks very close to one another. So what we do to change its color is you double click on the color there, and we're going to change it to what looks different. I don't know. We'll make it purple because that looks different enough. That's quite a bright purple. Okay, so we can go OK there. And we can change it to this. Now notice I also changed this setting by accident, so we can change that easily enough again. We'll go Edit, and we're going to call that, again, Label. So you can change lots of different things within your Scrivener environment. We can also show information about when this file was created versus when it was modified, and a whole bunch of other bits and pieces. So there is lots of bits and pieces that we can get. So we're not going to delve too much into that one, but that's fine. Carrying right along, we've got our character descriptions, we've got a placement description. One of the other things that we need to know and we need to look at would be our front matters. Now, I don't know about you guys, but a lot of NaNoWriMo people will have their own custom image that they will have created. You put that down here into your ebook. So you have this cover. This is the standard one that they have within your Scrivener demo or within your Scrivener templates. And yeah, it's okay. I'm not going to change it, but if you're wanting to import your cover, you're going to put it under this here, your ebook cover. Alternatively, if you want to, you can come to your manuscript format and you can actually import the image and add the image onto here as well. And I'll just show you how you can do that if you wish. So I'm going to go Insert Image, that was right-hand click, and I'm going to pick this image. So you can create your cover if you wish, so you can print it. Just as a reminder, again, that was a right-hand click, Insert Image. Okay, coming back to our manuscript, we have these first chapter, our second chapter, our third chapter. But we haven't called them chapter, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly okay. That's the way I like to do it. And the reason why I like to do that is because Scrivener will actually number them and name them for me when it compiles. Yes, you want to be able to compile your manuscript at some point. You want to be able to feel this satisfaction that you can see what it is you have been doing. So what you're going to do is you're going to come to this button over here. You're going to go Compile. It brings up this wonderful dialog. And you're going to click on this down arrow. Now, if you are under the Mac system, it does look slightly different. But to be able to access these features, you're going to go All Documents or All Options. So we now have this sitting here. And we're going to add front matters. We're going to add our manuscript format. So we suddenly get our title page. Now, one of the things we will have to do, and this is going to be incredibly important, very vital for you to do every time, just to make sure that you are getting things, is if you come to this Formatting tab, you come to Level 1, you're going to go Tick. Now, one of the things I want you to notice is that as I click through, if I go to this one down here, notice over here, it's telling me what's actually in Level 1 and what's not in Level 1 or Level 2. So I know exactly what's going to be showing up and when and where. That's actually very handy. That's a new feature in Scrivener, and I hadn't noticed that one before, so that must be the new parts of the new installs that have recently been released. So that checkbox, if you are ever compiling anything and you can't see your manuscript, that's the first thing you're going to check. So that was under the compile, and that was under formatting. One of the first things you're going to check. Then you're going to come down here. You're going to compile for a doc. I don't recommend that you compile for docx. There's multiple reasons why. One of them being that Scrivener does do a little bit of a funky thing when it's compiling its formats into docx formats. So unless you're 100% certain you're going to get your formatting correct, I would use doc. The other reason why I wouldn't recommend using docx is because not everyone can actually open up a docx file and have it format correctly 100% of the time. If you're using OpenOffice or LibreOffice, you're going to be able to open up a doc file, reasonably certain, but not a docx. So we're going to compile right now. And I'm going to call this, put it on my desktop, I'm going to call it Fluffy Bunny. Just so I can find it. And if we open that up, shrink it down in size so we can actually see it on the screen. Oh, not quite. There we go. Now we can see it. So if we scroll down, we somehow managed to get 100 words in our manuscript. But I'll explain to you in a moment how we actually don't have 100 words and how that counts working in a moment. We'll scroll down, and it says Demo by J. Moore. We're going to have to change that. I will show you where to do that. And it comes down. We've got this surname. That one can be changed easily as well. There's our image. There's our chapter 1. This is a chapter where Bob will meet Bunny. This is a scene. This is a chapter where Bunny runs away from Bob. And in this chapter, Bob is chasing after Bunny. So we have our 3 chapters. Okay. One of the things we are going to fix right away. That. Closing down my Word. If you come up to the project and go to Metadata Settings, you're going to get a dialog that looks something like this. If you are in the Windows system, you're going to come to the Project Properties, which is at this end of the tabs. Under Mac, it's over on this end. But it's still going to be titled Project Properties, so you want the Project Properties one. And we're going to change the project title. We're going to change that to Fluffy Bunny. And this abbreviated title, I'm going to call it Bunny. And the reason why is just so you can see where the different titles go into the compiled manuscript. Now, I always change my author name. And there we go, more. And we'll go OK. So if we recompile that, and we're going to overwrite Fluffy Bunny. Yes, we want to overwrite. Open it again. And we'll scroll down. There we go. Fluffy Bunny by Judy L. Moore. And if we continue to scroll down, we have this Moore and Bunny. So you can see where we have changed things and how it will automatically change for us. Okay. One last thing I will quickly explain to you is how did that count come to be about. On my manuscript page, I had this code. This code tells me that I've got a word count to the nearest 100. I can set that to be just the word count, or to the nearest 10, to the nearest 100, to the nearest 1,000. So you can change it what you want. All the other information that's down here, you're not going to want to change that. This you might change. It's up to you. Totally up to you. You will have noticed in our compiled copy, if I open up the compiled copy again, we had some font issues that comes through here. That is explained in a later episode within the Tips and Tricks for series on how to deal with this and creating the custom system and changing it to a standard manuscript format. So I would suggest if you're interested in that sort of information, watch more on in the series. Meanwhile, I think I've given you enough information to get started on your NaNoWriMo project. So meanwhile, I'm just going to carry on and I'm going to keep writing about how Bunny wasn't sure about Bob. Have fun for NaNoWriMo, guys, and I'll see you later.